Moon phases explained. The moon's endless dance. As the Earth and the moon orbit the sun together, the pattern of day and night on the lunar surface constantly changes. We refer to the percentage of illumination on the visible face of the moon as the moon's phase. There are 8 major named phases that have been known throughout human history. When we look at a diagram of the moon phases, the first thing we're going to want to do is locate the sun's positioning. On this diagram, the sun is located on the left-hand side. The moon that is nearest to the sun, so we have the sun, the moon, and the earth. So in this position right here, we would consider this to be position 1. We consider this then to be the new moon. In this position, at position 1, what we can see from Earth is all darkness because the backside of the moon is illuminated that we are not looking at. Then the moon revolves around the Earth in a counterclockwise positioning. So the angle at which we are looking at the moon and the way it's illuminated from our vantage point of the Earth is what we see as phases. So here, as we move to the next position, we call this a waxing crescent, and that is considered to be position number 2. Then at 90 degrees, so we have a 90 degrees from the sun and the earth here. This is going to be first quarter, and that's position 3. Then we have position 4. 5 would be our full moon. 6 would be our waning gibbous. 7 then, alternating the 90 degrees there, would be the last quarter or third quarter, and then position 8. This is what we're going to be talking through in the next few slides, is the different positioning and what we call them. When we talk about the moon phases, we talk about them being either waxing or waning. Waxing is a moon that is growing in luminosity. So we can see that a curtain is opening from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, and the right-hand side of the moon is illuminated. So if we see that the moon is bright and getting brighter on the right-hand side, we consider that to be waxing. So waxing means growing. When we see then that the curtain is closing, and it is dark on the right-hand side and illuminated on the left-hand side, we consider this waning. Waning means shrinking. So we are going to be looking for the left-hand side illuminated and the right-hand side in darkness. So the moon phases has everything to do with the angle at which we are viewing the moon and seeing the light that is illuminated from the sun. So when we have the earth here and we have our moon here and the sun here, in this alignment, this is going to be our position 1. When we look at position 1, we can see that we see all darkness because the backside is illuminated. When we go counterclockwise to our second position, you can see that we have a sliver of the right-hand side illuminated. The curtain is being opened, so to speak. And from this angle, we can see just a sliver. We call that sliver waxing crescent. So crescent is the name of a sliver. Because it is on the right-hand side and it is growing in illumination, we call that waxing. So waxing means growing in illumination. So you can see it's growing even more at the third position, and now we have half of it illuminated. We call that first quarter. That is when we're going to be at a 90-degree angle. The waxing gibbous is going to be when we see 3/4 illuminated, and we call it waxing because it's growing. It has illumination on the right-hand side. And gibbous means that it's 3/4. So that's going to take us then all the way through 2, 3, and 4. And it's going to bring us to position 5. Position 5 then, the curtain is completely open and we have a full moon. Now we are going to be closing our curtain. We close our curtain from the right-hand side, closing to the left. So it's going to look as if the left-hand side of the moon is illuminated. Okay, so here we are calling this, when we are shrinking in illumination, we call that waning. Once again, this is due to the positioning and the angle at which we view that illumination. So here we see that it's 3/4 illuminated on the left-hand side. That's called a gibbous. Since it is shrinking in illumination, we call that waning. At 90 degrees, we have half of it illuminated on the left-hand side. We call that last quarter or third quarter. And then finally, we're going to pull that curtain all the way closed, or almost all the way closed, and we have a crescent left. We have a little sliver left. That sliver is called a crescent. And since it is almost completely gone, we call that waning. And then it will take us all the way back to position 1. So like I said, it's all about the positioning. When the moon is in alignment with the sun and the earth, we will be at either position 1 or position 5. So we will either have a new moon or we will have a full moon. This is also when we're going to be experiencing eclipses. So you can see here the alignment. Here we have the sun, the moon, and the earth alignment, where we have a new moon. And that would cause, if that was in direct alignment, that would cause an eclipse. And here then you can see, if we take this one out, we have the sun, the earth, and then the moon. And that would be full moon. And that would also cause an eclipse. So we'll talk more about that next. At the other angles here, you can see that we have, at this 45-degree angle here, on either side of the new moon, you're going to have crescents. So this is the shape of a crescent. When it is on the right-hand side, we call that a waxing crescent. When it is on the left-hand side, we call that a waning crescent. And you can see here that they're at the same angle. Okay, the same thing's going to happen then with our gibbous. You can see the gibbous over here. Okay, so we have our gibbous at this angle. You can see that we have 3/4 illuminated on the right-hand side. And then here we have 3/4 illuminated on the left-hand side. So this shape of 3/4 illuminated is called a gibbous. This would be waxing gibbous. And this would be waning gibbous. And then lastly, we would have the 90-degree angle. So at our 90-degree angle, we are going to have both of the half moons. On the half moon on the right-hand side illuminated, we call this first quarter. And then we have the left-hand side half illuminated, and we call that third quarter, or sometimes last quarter. Here you can see that the sunlight is right here, so the sun is shining this way. We would be on Earth's surface here looking at the moon. The sunlight would be shining on the backside of the moon. So from our perspective, we would see a new moon, which would look like it would look black in the sky, non-illuminated. So this is considered to be position 1, new moon. Okay, so we go counterclockwise. So position 2, counterclockwise from that, is going to be growing in illumination. So you can see a new moon here. It's growing in illumination. When it grows in illumination, we call that waxing. and that will be illuminated on the right-hand side. So this would be a waxing crescent, which would be at position 2. It'll be now opening the curtain a little bit more. It'll open it halfway. So halfway illuminated will be first quarter. Opening it even more, so opening it to 3/4 illuminated, is going to be a waxing gibbous. Gibbous is 3/4 illuminated. Then it will open the curtain all the way. The full moon will be fully exposed, bright in the sky. Then the curtain will start to close, and we will now have darkness as the curtain closes on the right-hand side. The left-hand side will be illuminated. On either side of the full moon, we will have 3/4 illuminated. On the right or on the left side, we call that a gibbous. So now we will call this a waning gibbous. Waning would be our position 6 as the moon now is shrinking in brightness. The curtain will close a little bit more. We're now at a half moon. The left-hand side is illuminated. We know this is now our 3rd quarter or last quarter moon. And then we will close the curtain even more, where we have our waning crescent, left-hand side illuminated, and then the curtain will close all the way and we go back to our new moon. For your homework assignment, you guys are going to be labeling your diagram. You're going to look for where the sun's rays is at. In this picture, the sun's rays are on the left-hand side. So I will find the moon that is directly next to the sun, and that will be my position 1, and I will work my way counterclockwise. So we are going to number our moons. We're going to start with position 1. Then we will go counterclockwise to position 2, to position 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back to our full moon, or new moon, excuse me. Okay, so now we're going to shade in what that's going to look like. So on the new moon, as we look at it from Earth's perspective, we will not see anything in the sky. The whole moon will be covered in darkness, because according to our perspective from the Earth, because the sun is shining on the back side of the moon. Okay, so now we are going to have it illuminated on the right-hand side. So now we are going to have just a sliver of illumination on the right-hand side. So I'm going to shade in the left-hand side. Okay, so I made my crescent shape. You could also go then and fill in this part with a yellow color to help illuminate that side. Okay, so notice this is the right-hand side is illuminated in a crescent shape. Down here then, we are going to have the whole right-hand side here illuminated. We have half of it, okay? And the other side then is going to be in darkness. Then what we're going to have is we're going to have 3/4 now illuminated as I open up the curtain even more. So now I have 3/4 illuminated. And I have just a little bit left till I'm completely full. So this is on the right-hand side as well. We call these, all of this, as the curtain is opening up, we call that waxing. So we have our waxing crescent. We have our first quarter, which is a half moon. And then we have our gibbous, our waxing gibbous. So you always put the word waxing. Waxing crescent, waxing gibbous. And this is 3/4 illuminated. Okay? Now it is all the way open. So now the curtain's all the way open and the sun is illuminating the entire moon. So I have now a full moon. Okay, now my curtain is going to start to close. So as my curtain starts to close, it's just going to close a tiny bit on the right-hand side. It starts to close on the right-hand side. So it's closing that way. So we still have 3/4 of it illuminated, but now it's going to look like the illumination is on the left-hand side. Okay, so this is the left-hand side. We have 3/4, so we call this gibbous. A 3/4 moon is a gibbous, but because we are now shrinking in luminosity, this is waning. So waning means shrinking. So this is a waning gibbous. Then I have my last quarter. So I have half of it illuminated. And I am going to shade in half. The other half, then the curtain is closing on half of that. So it is half, which is called our last quarter or our 3rd quarter. Okay, once again, left-hand side. And then we are going to close the curtain even more. So now my sliver is going to be on the left-hand side. Okay, left-hand side. And the curtain is closed even more. Okay, and we would call this sliver a crescent. So we have a waning gibbous, we have a 3rd quarter, and then we have a waning crescent. Then the curtain closes all the way, and we are back at the full moon. You are going to make sure that you label your diagram using all of the correct numbers. So as you move through the different numbers, you're also then going to draw the pictures correctly, as I did, and you're going to want to make sure that you label everything correctly. So waxing crescent, 1st quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, 3rd quarter, waning crescent, new moon. Okay, and I'm going to go back. I didn't even label that. So new moon. When you're done labeling your diagram, you're going to Dropbox that so that we can see that you have drawn it. Okay, we'll practice again tomorrow. Good job, everybody.